Good afternoon and welcome to the first episode of By Hook or by Crook. My name is Pamela and I'm from Yorkshire in the north of England. I had this idea because I love anything to do with detective stories. I suppose it started with Agatha Christie. I've watched things on television, I've read her books, and I like them all, basically. My favourite detective, although she's not an official detective, is Miss Jane Marple. She comes from the village of St Mary Mead, which is actually a fictional village. I always imagine it to be either in the home counties or Cotswolds or heading towards Devon, something like that. Just because of the number of people who've got that sort of accent in the productions. Plus as well there's a few thatched roofs and stuff in when they show it, although of course it is obviously fictional. She's what is known as a village busybody, but a nice one. She bases nearly everything that she discovers about people on someone that she's met in her own village. They actually say in one of the books that she knows the world through, you know, the village that she lives in and the people in it. She's also been described in one of the novels as having a mind like a bacon slicer, so she's sharp. She's never married. She has a lot of nieces and nephews, and they are mentioned a few times as looking after her. She's obviously got a lot of friends as well. We know from one of her books, which is the one where she goes to stay with an old friend, which is the Mirror character. Do you know? I always get those. They do it with mirrors. They do it with mirrors. Is where she actually goes to stay with someone she was a companion to at one time. She sort of was a companion to two sisters. So she has worked in the past, you know, like all people who never married, you have to do something, you know. So it's the set in the 40s and 50s, I think, mainly. In fact, this book that I'm going to choose for my first one, I actually think it came out during wartime, but it's post-war in the story that they do on television. I'm just trying to think what else I can say about it, really. Oh yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, because I did once buy sort of like a breakdown of Agatha Christie's life, and if I remember, she based Miss Marple on a friend's relative, and she actually likes Miss Marple, does Agatha Christie. She is alleged to have chosen the name Marple from travelling through Marple. It's either in Manchester or Lancashire. Well, it would be both actually, but I think it might be classed as Greater Manchester. And that's how she chose the name. Don't know about the Jane bit. Anyway, that's Miss Marple. Now there's a few book, a dozen or so. I've got 3 absolute favourites in Miss Marple books, although like I say to you, I like them all. The 3 that I like best, so the one that I'm planning on doing for this first episode of By Hook or by Crook, is the Moving Finger. The second one is Murder at the Vicarage, which is actually the first one that Miss Marple appeared in as a full book, and Murder is Announced. All those 3 are my up there. That's like, really, I love them. I've bought a notebook especially for doing this series, and I've just made a few notes in it about the story, and I've put like some book covers. That book cover there is, of the ones that I bought in book form, that is the first cover that I actually bought to read them, and that was after seeing all the Miss Marples on the television with Joe Nixon in. You can get it obviously in book form, you can get it to listen as an audio book, you can get it you know, on the TV. It's been made many times, although in my opinion the most truthful of the television adaptation is the one with Jo Nixon in. What else can you get it as? Radio play, you know. I have listened to all those, to be honest, but they are on the BBC, and I don't know if that's available in other countries. But yeah, if you're in the UK, you can definitely go on the BBC Sounds app, and I think they may still be available. If they're not, you can get them as audio plays to buy. Now, The Moving Finger is set in a fictional village called Limstock. Now, it's called Limstock in the book, but on TV with the Jo Nixon one, it's Limston. The story sort of like revolves around a brother and sister coming to live in the village called Jerry and Joanna Burton. Now, Jerry in the TV version has already served in the war in the RAF, and he's had a crash in his plane in peacetime, and they've come while he's recuperating, and his sister's come with him. Now, she was in the WAF as well during the war, so she's like, you know, she's, I think they say in the TV version, she's case hardened. So they come to the village. Now that gives them, well, I'll tell you first, they take an house to rent that's owned by Miss Emily Barton. Now, Miss Barton is another single woman, and she lives in quite a big house called the Firs. Now, because after the war, you know, taxation went up. You know, because obviously they had to recoup his losses after the war, and people who had bigger houses did struggle. So a lot of them did this. They rented out their own house and then went and took you know, a few rooms elsewhere, you know, just to, while they recoup some of the losses. And this is what happens here. So like I say, they go live in this house. Because they come to the village, it opens the issue that people have been getting these poison pen letters. And I'll just read a bit to you what you can read in the book, but it's basically, it's translated from an old little poem or a few words, which is: the moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. So I think that is actually cited in the book, if I remember correctly. Now, so by Jerry getting one of these poison pen letters more or less fairly soon after they've arrived here, it also comes out, by the way, that most of them have been sent to men, assuming the writer is a woman by that. Anyway, in the book, Miss Marple doesn't appear till later on, but in the TV version with Jo Nixon, she does actually arrive quite soon, and well, obviously they need a detective, don't they, to sort it out. That's the whole basis of having the TV adaptation. So she comes as a friend of the vicar's wife, Mrs. Dane Calthrop, and she stays basically, you know, and she's one at first line she says to Maud, Mrs. Dane Calthrop, is, what do you want with me, Maud? You know, so, you know, it's find out who it is that's doing it. And I think she says, Maud says, find the lady, and Miss Marple says, if it is one. So she's already thinking you can't just tie it down to being a lady. Anyway, it gives her a chance, because the idea of it, because she's a busybody, and as the same one of them, you know, the thing is with like old ladies, they can ask questions and they're just an old lady asking questions, so she gets away with it that way. Anyway, there's a few characters in it. Some of them have changed names to what's in the book, but they basically are all the same characters, more or less. The first murder, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say the first murder, is Mrs. Symington, the solicitor's wife, and her death is deemed to be a suicide. and Miss Marple's not convinced, and it's following receiving one of these letters, which I think she's the first woman to receive one of these letters, I think, or one that's admitting it anyway. So she, the coroner judges it to be a suicide because of the poison pen letter, and Miss Marple obviously isn't convinced. What else is that I needed to say to you? Like I said, there are other things happen, but I'm not going to tell you everything just in case you haven't read it and you want to read it. There's also a little bit of romance in it. Jerry Burton as a love interest, which, like I said, this is the thing with the Miss Marples. There's a softer side to them, I think. Yeah, so I like that. When we get to the end, one of the best lines, I think, on the TV adaptation is the ending of this one. And Miss Marple says something like, "Dare I ask, would it be possible for us all to have a nice cup of tea?" And I just think that just about sums it up. It's cosy, you know. As a point of interest, Agatha Christie wanted Jo Nixon to play this part. She actually chose her for it. But at that time, Jo Nixon didn't think it was right for her, but she did change her mind later on. Now, the reason why Agatha Christie had wanted a little bit more control was because she had let them do various films and what have you, with Margaret Rutherford, etc. And they made a total farce out of them. So she didn't want that to happen again with her books. I don't know what she'd think today, actually, because her grandson now obviously has sold rights to do various further adaptations, and they've changed them even more. So I don't know what she'd think of that. Anyway, we do know that she was happy with Jo Nixon in the part. And she is my favourite Miss Marple. I haven't liked the ones that are with Geraldine McEwen, even though I like Geraldine McEwen as an actress. I don't think she was right for it, but we're all different and we may all think different things. I think that's about it for what I'm going to say about it at the moment. So basically we've got poison pen letters, so people are dishing the dirt that's not true, but everybody is wary to say anything, because if you do say something, people are likely to turn around and say there's no smoke without fire, so there must be some truth in it. Jerry's one of the first ones who actually comes out and says, I got one. Like, it does get people talking, and like I say, Miss Marple's involved. She does solve it in the end. I'm going to say something else, but I'm not going to say that just in case it gives away too much. I think a lot of you may actually know some of the stories anyway. I know what Miss Marple is like. So what do you think? I've picked the moving finger. It's entirely up to you what you want to make, if you want to join in. I am, you can even paint a picture if you want. I'm not worried however you interpret this. I was thinking about setting a decent length target, because bearing in mind that we've got hooking up with books with Cassandra and Caroline, so I thought maybe I'd do 4 of these a year. So my first deadline is the 31st of March, and then I'll do them every 3 months. So what do you think to that idea? Is that an adequate time for you? Just let me know how you feel about it. Let me know still if you think it's still a good idea after I've picked the moving finger. A lot of you do seem keen that it is a Miss Marple that I was picking. Like I say, if I have to choose, it is my favourite, but like I say, there's a load of them. So just let me know what you think. I hope that you enjoy this, and I'll definitely see you later. Bye for now.